This video is brought to you by Holocasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description. Hello and welcome everyone to our 88th session of Holocasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Brett Ari Fischer from New York City in the US. Brett has been in the real estate business for over 11 years, is originally from Southern California and is a real estate agent focused on buying and selling residential properties in New York City. Brett, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for being on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, I mean, kind of what you said, I'm from Southern California, Orange County, and I've been here in New York City helping people buy and sell apartments for about the past 11 years. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. I also create different real estate animations and different videos on how to buy property, sell property, renting, and all the different nuances, because New York City is such a very specific market and it's different from a lot of other places across the country and throughout the world.
Absolutely. It's always exciting for me to talk to someone from the US and especially like from New York City. I've had like several people on the show already, and it's always it's like this the very hot market always. First question, what made you motivate to start off as a real estate agent around 11 years ago?
That's actually really funny. So I come from a sports broadcasting, journalism, radio background. And for me, it was really important to be in New York City. But in order to be there, you don't really get a chance to be on television unless you have tons and tons of experience. And so I was going to have to go into production, and it's just not something that I was passionate about. I wanted to be on air in front of everything. So I went to a bunch of career fairs, and I went to this sales career fair that had all these different positions, and you meet with different people. And one of them is real estate. And I thought, people have told me in the past, so when I was in college, that actually, hey, you should go into real estate. You have the personality for it, and it seems like it'd be something you'd be good at. And I was like, you know what, maybe I could try this out. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And, the first year real estate, I was working probably more than I've ever worked in my entire life, including to this day. And after a while, once you get the hang of it in New York City, it's a lot of fun. It's crazy. It's intense. It's very competitive. But I really was passionate about what I'm doing. Just, being able to see all the different architecture, the different types of properties, all the nuances that you might not get to experience in other parts of the world. So I just feel grateful that I'm here experiencing this.
I can definitely imagine. It's like being able to play the game and be part of the game. Also, obviously, for you as a pro athlete or athlete before that, it's like being very, very happy to be in a competitive environment. And I think you cannot choose anything more competitive than real estate in the US. So, and especially like in New York City.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy, but that's one of the reasons why it makes it so much fun.
Totally. I have a question concerning the start. There's not without any or with a good reason, the turnover of real estate agents is quite high, especially due to the first 6 months, 12 months. People say, hey, you need like up to cash savings for 12 months just to be secure, especially in New York City, because you first need to get deal flow from both sides and stuff. How was that for you?
That's a great question, because people who are looking to get into the industry, I tell them this all the time. I recommend, you really got to have at least a year's savings, because if you're going into buying and selling, there's a great chance that you're not going to be able to close anything for your first 6 to 8 months. And that's just the reality of the situation. If you're getting into rentals, it's different. So you still have a good amount of savings, but you can make little pieces of money earlier on. But the failure rate is somewhere around 91%. It fluctuates every year. So people who get their license here in New York City, 91% of them do not renew their license after 2 years. Mm-hmm. So whether they never do real estate at all, or maybe they don't do anything after 2 years. There's no exact time. So you could quit whenever you want. Mm-hmm. That's just how the statistics indicated. Mm-hmm. So if you don't renew it, that means you're no longer doing it for the time being. And 9 out of every 10 people, that's how it is. It's easy to get your license in New York. And I mean, I've heard of some other states are extremely difficult. Like California is pretty crazy. Here it's pretty easy. It's just that once you have your license, what can you do with it? How are you able to make money? Because you can learn a lot, and it still can be really difficult because there's so many different aspects of being a successful real estate agent.
So, direct to a question on that: what made you successful? What did you do that you made it?
Honestly, well, I mean, I'm still working, not there yet. But honestly, I think the fact that I failed so much my first year, like I just felt like I was learning a lot more than everybody else. I never really had a mentor to help me, to say, hey, this is what you should be doing. It was kind of like, diving in, just making mistakes, hoping I don't lose my license due to certain illegal things. Because when I started, a lot of these companies were telling me, oh, do this, this, this. And then I found out later on, yeah, that's not something that you're supposed to do. So it's just confusing when you don't know if it's just the norm in the industry or if it's just what certain companies do. Because, if your first two companies take to the exact same thing, how do you know that it's not right? So for myself, I just learned a ton. I mean, I really learned a lot by failing. Having certain big deals fall through because of a simple mistake. You don't forget that. You don't make that same mistake again. And also not being afraid to ask questions. I asked so many questions, and sometimes I wouldn't get the right answers, so I'd ask multiple people.
Yeah.
And I think that my biggest piece of advice is, if you're getting into real estate, probably in general, but especially here in New York City, if you focus on this and you're an independent contractor, you're a broker, and you're treating this as a job, then you're probably going to fail, because it's not a 9-to-5 type of thing. It's not hourly. If you treat this like a business and you really have that mindset that that's what you want to do, you're going to be a lot more successful.
You affiliated or you're independent yourself?
So everyone is independent contractor here in New York City. So if you're getting paid a salary, then you would not be an independent contractor. But if you're selling real estate and it's commission only, then you are considered independent.
This also applies.
Even with bonus.
Okay, but this also applies if you're, let's say, part of a big brokerage. No, that's then non-independent.
You're still independent.
Okay. So,
so for example, if you're a sales manager and you're getting paid a salary, you're a part of the company.
Yeah.
You're not an independent contractor. But let's say that you're with a big firm, but you're showing apartments and you're not getting paid a salary, then you're still independent. It's just the way the law works here.
Okay. So that means, like, sometimes you can work and collaborate with Keller Williams, sometimes you can work with the Remax and stuff, and you are like...
You can collaborate with any of those.
Got it. Okay.
It doesn't matter. It's just, if you're an agent, you can do all those things. It just depends on your taxes and what you're classified as.
Got it. Okay, perfect. I understand. Concerning deal flow, what was... do you have any secret for the audience to say, hey, like, especially like starting off when you maybe, you are new to the game, what was for you like the most successful way to get like the first deals?
I was advertising mostly on Craigslist. And there were some other platforms that don't exist anymore, but I think it depends whether you're focusing on rentals or sales. So when I started my first couple years, rentals were my primary focus. And that's very different because you're meeting so many different people and they're not loyal to you at all. So it's tough because sometimes you can show somebody for a month and a half and they're like, actually, I'm not going to rent, or I decided to stay in my own place. And don't get me wrong, the commissions can be really great, but when you're first starting off, every deal, it can be tough if you're not taught the right system. So with that, I just tell people, like, honestly, ask questions, talk to people in different companies, because here's the reality of the situation. It's somewhat unfair to both parties, but when you're in real estate here, there's absolutely zero loyalty. You really have to earn that. You have to gain that. So because of it, if you join one company and you're talking to other companies and you think you're going to get better help there, honestly, go do it. Once you feel like somebody cares about you and they're going to take care of you, trust you, maybe give you leads, then it's like, okay, that makes sense. But really interview with as many companies as you can. Once you're started, because again, you don't know what's going to happen, and sometimes one situation at a company is going to be better than yours. Is the training necessarily better? No, but maybe you have more access to learning and getting more clients.
Perfect. Okay. Talking a little bit now, moving a little bit the topic towards New York City in general. Give us an overview, maybe, especially like with regards to COVID, the entire 2020 and 2021 situation. What's right now the situation, and what's the latest update there?
Yeah. So the COVID situation was it was a mess. In a lot of ways, I actually think that it's better now. What I mean by that is when COVID first started, you couldn't have more than one person in the apartment at the same time. It was a very awkward situation. You weren't able to call certain people. I mean, it was because they didn't know what was going to happen. And Manhattan is so, especially Manhattan, New York City as a whole, it's just very condensed. There's a ton of people in a small area. So I had a bunch of deals fall through that should have never fallen through. If you're in a normal market, 100% of the time they go through. And for 3 months, you couldn't do anything. After that, then they started opening up, things changed. And now, honestly, I've been extremely busy. I have a lot of closings coming up, a lot of things in contract, and it's just because, the follow-up's really important. But now you have to wear a mask. Oh, so go ahead.
No, what's exactly like right now the dynamic for me as an outsider right now? Like people, I assume COVID happened. People were unsecure, not really knowing. First, then let's say March, April, May, people started to look for something outside. So you had like some deal flow on that one. Maybe even talking with partners from different states, I assume, or outskirts, because people were not selling yet. They were just moving somewhere, so there was no deal flow for you on that end. Now, give me like maybe
a lot of people were moving out of the city. They're going to Westchester close. That area's exploded. Jersey, certain parts of Brooklyn were going for a lot more, especially with outdoor space. But last month, I think they said there were more sales transactions than any January in the past 7 years. Now, that doesn't mean it was at the highest price point. It's just that people are starting to buy again. It's been extremely busy. I don't know if the numbers are going to be able to keep up, but it's no longer an ultra buyer's market like it was, about 10 months ago.
Okay. So
still a seller's market, but it's certain areas are struggling more than others. New development is struggling more than resales, especially depending on the price per square foot. So it's interesting to see that dynamic. But you have to wear masks everywhere. Obviously, there are no longer open houses where you can have multiple parties come in at the same time. You can only have one party at the same time. And the elevator, you can only take 2-3 people depending on the building up. So sometimes they're going up and down just for one group of people. So things have changed, but honestly, I think it's for the better. Honestly, it's making things a lot easier and a lot more in control of what's happening.
What was the implication on the price per square foot in percentage? Can you say like on sales prices have dropped by, I don't know.
Example, let's say luxury, and again, this is going to vary depending on the area and whatnot. Let's say, luxury is over $2,500 a square foot, or $2,500 per square foot. Those properties are struggling a lot more, especially the high end, these new developments in Midtown, because you have so much competition and people don't want to pay those crazy prices versus something that, maybe it's a resale, maybe it's still a newer building, but you're going to get a lot more value based on the space of the apartment. So, some of these like $10, $20, $30 million apartments, they're just kind of sitting there, whereas you're seeing a lot of the $1 to $2 million range, they're moving and they're going quickly now. Brooklyn has still been a powerhouse market. People are no longer just going there to save money. They're going there because they want to live in Brooklyn versus Manhattan.
Do you see also a dynamic coming in from very wealthy overseas investors, Chinese, Russians, whatever? Sometimes you have like, when there's some white space created, say, okay, perfect, we take the dip and then we're gonna go all in and buy a bunch of flats just to take advantage of that one.
Yeah, you're still seeing that, investors overseas taking advantage of a weak market. I mean, because that's the goal, you buy low, you sell high. That's an investor's dream and what their main focus is. So when New York City's not doing well, you have these other people saying, all right, well, I'll buy this for cheap and let's hang on to it or rent it out. But the rental prices have been really low too.
Yeah. Quick question about Trump versus Biden. Do you see any change as in more investments overseas after Biden election?
So far, I think so, but honestly, I don't know if it has to do with the specific election itself. Usually around the election time, people are scared, and then once the election happens, people start to buy again, depending on rates and everything. But I don't know if there's a huge difference for the time being of, whether more people are going to be buying. Because, Biden just was elected or inaugurated and whatnot. Yeah. So it's still really early on.
Got it. Okay. I really like, coming a little bit to your business. I really like, by the way, your domain. It's, I think it should be worth something. It's very, very cleverly chosen, I think. Give us an overview of your services you're offering, also maybe on your geo within Manhattan, and also on your vertical.
Sure. So, my focus is mainly helping people buy and sell apartments, whether it's condos, co-ops, townhouses, single families, multifamilies. I work in all 5 boroughs, though most of my work is in Manhattan and then certain parts of Queens and Brooklyn. And we also manage 60 buildings or so. So people looking for property management.
Cool.
We do tons of rentals as well, mainly representing the landlord. So we offer a pretty big platform. It just depends what people want to do. I also work at a commercial firm. So it's called Lee & Associates. They're really big throughout the country, especially on the West Coast, like in California. Like their headquarters is where I'm from. But because of that, when people have questions about, investments and a retail office space, we have just a huge amount of resources and people who they do this literally every single day. So my expertise is not commercial, but whenever I have somebody, it's like, hey, here you go, whatever you need, we have that available. So it's really a, one size fits all type thing. We can do everything. We have people who do contract work, people do retail, office, residential rental, sales, property management. There's really nothing that our company, or at least someone in our company, does not cover, which makes it a huge advantage when someone has any questions that are real estate related in here.
Absolutely. What you do or what you like to do more, selling or like advising someone to sell and help them sell it, or do you like more to be on the other side to help someone buy?
It's a great question. So when you're helping somebody sell, it's usually a lot more of an intimate process because you know their whole background, you understand like why they're selling. It can be very emotional for them to let it go. You're there from the beginning to the end, but you get buyers from having exclusive listings. So I think they're different. I think it's good to have a balance. I would say I work primarily with more buyers than sellers, just because when people they get a chance to meet me, it's like, okay, great. With selling, there's a lot more involved. With the company, the branding, what you can do, the experience. There's so many more things. And when it comes to buying, it's like, do you know what you're doing? Can you direct us? Can you help us? And so people see like some of my videos online, and they see my background. They're like, okay, this is great. But I work with, from a residential side, I work with a smaller company, especially compared to these big companies that have like 2,000 and 1,500 residential agents.
Yeah. In the end, like I really like what you just described. In the end, the words trust popped up in my mind. In the end, it's like building trust, making sure that you also communicate trust towards both ends. On the one hand, you have like this delicate emotional side of the seller, and then on the other hand, also the professional side. Hey, I just want to buy like a real estate. Don't screw me over with the price. Give me a good price. Help me out. So I'm contracting, or I'm asking you to help me. What do you think has been your success in order to communicate like that you're a trustworthy, credible person and that people like should definitely go with you?
Often it's when people leave and then they come back. Because what happens is I'll talk to different people and I'll say, hey, this is what's going on. And they'll tell me often, well, you're the only broker who said this. And I was like, all right, well, this isn't true. So go, you can ask around. And then, I don't hear from them for a couple weeks, a month, something like that. And then they call me back like, wow, actually, you were right. And I've been doing this for a while. I'm not, extremely experienced in the fact that I'm not doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, but I'm doing this over a decade. So long enough to know that, what my value is. And I treat people like they're my clients, but also like they're my family. So I'm not going to lie to them, even if it's going to be uncomfortable, because somebody's going to lie to you just to get your business. Then what happens when you're actually going through the whole negotiation process, and who's going to help you with the terms and everything else? And I don't want to have to worry about what I'm lying about. So it's just different things that I think about and how I approach that.
Yeah. I recently talked to Antonio from Portugal, and he mentioned, for example, as well, like, don't estimate that the market is smaller than you think, or like you know each other still. Even obviously, like Portugal might be a smaller market, but I think like you always have to make sure that, hey, like you're being met again. You're just being on the silver plate, especially like if you scroll over. And I think like this relationship building over a long period is exactly like what I assume is what drives the success. A few moments back, you talked about the animations and the videos you're doing. Talk me through that one. What is it about?
So there was a huge storm. It was like the worst snow day in the history of recorded New York City. This was, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was. And I could barely leave my building. It was pretty intense, and all my appointments were canceled for like 3 or 4 days. So I was like, all right, well, I can't do anything. Maybe I should just figure out some sort of marketing and whatnot. So I learned how to animate, do all these different things, and I've created a lot of animations, most of them real estate, but some, for Alzheimer, some for my family. Like I created a 20-minute video for my cousin for her college graduation. Just a lot of different aspects of it. I think it's fun. I like creating things and, kind of like putting your imagination on the screen. So yeah, this is my, here, hold on a second. Wait, there we go.
Yeah, we can see it.
This is my character that I use, and this is like an example from one of the videos, so that way people can see everything. And then my logo is right there. It's like right under my name. But yeah, it's a ton of fun. I like being creative. I like being able to do different things and market in a different way, kind of stand out from the rest of the pack.
Absolutely. You just mentioned Alzheimer. I know you are active also concerning Alzheimer Foundation. You're collecting funds. Give us maybe also a call out, a shout out for anyone who likes to contribute to Alzheimer.
Yeah, so for me, the whole purpose is obviously to raise a lot of money, but in some ways I think raising awareness is initially more important, because the more awareness there is, then the more money can actually be donated, as opposed to, okay, I donated money, then you move on. Like when friends are like, hey, I'm raising something for a cause, usually you just kind of like donate, but then you don't learn enough about what's going on. And Alzheimer's is such a misunderstood disease, and there's no cure for it. There's some treatments or things that can slow it down, but there's no cure for it. And it's, 3 of my grandparents passed away from Alzheimer's, and it's had a huge effect on me. And my mom, she works in gerontology, which is working with the elderly. So prior to COVID, she was, working with people in person every single day who deal with these types of situations. Now she does all of her work virtually, so having different sessions. So she's no longer physically there with them due to health regulations. But it's something I'm passionate about. And, honestly, if people are interested, just reach out to me. I respond to literally everybody. I'm very easy to access. And, if we can't find a cure immediately, at least, having somebody else to talk to, or you getting that support system and understanding a little bit more about what it is, because I still don't know exactly, what Alzheimer's is. There's just so much you don't know. But I didn't even know really the name until probably like right around college, because most people say it's Alzheimer's, but it's actually Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like one of the examples. But.
Yeah, it's true, and I totally agree, and I love your dedication on it, and I think it's I don't know how much money obviously is being put into the cure of Alzheimer and the entire awareness thing, but I would love myself as well. I would love that much more money is being put in. I honestly think that this is like one of the saddest diseases you have, because while this person is alive, you feel like this person is kind of leaving you, because you just feel like you cannot have like these in-depth conversation which you used to have, and I think it's quite sad. How can people contact you if they would like to reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can email me at brett@thenewyorkcitybroker.com. You can find me on Instagram, the New York City Broker. I'm now on Clubhouse as well. I forgot my Instagram. I think it's the NYC Broker, but you can type in my name. You'll find me, Brett Ari Fischer, as it's in the bottom left here. And you can see it on that giant screen. There we go.
Yeah. Perfect.
So yeah, I mean, again, I respond to literally everybody. I like helping others. I like learning from other people. I often learn more from others by them asking me questions, because it's important to see both sides of any topic, anything that you're doing.
Perfect. What are the thoughts and the last words you would like to share with the audience? Is there anything else in your mind which you would like to put out?
If you're looking to get into real estate, my one advice is just expect to fail a lot, continue to fail as much as you can, but learn from those experiences, because that's how you're really going to end up accelerating more than others and learning more than others. People are afraid of rejection. Rejection is how you grow. As long as you're able to learn from that and build this, what I call emotional callus. So that's really it. If you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Michael, I do appreciate you putting this together. That's great. I love meeting people like yourself on Clubhouse. And it's just a cool conversation, just kind of like we're at the bar or something and just chilling, hanging out. But I'm a really down-to-earth person. I talk with anybody. I really do. It doesn't even matter what the topic is. I just enjoy that communication and learning about other types of people. Different languages and different areas. It's just great. I've always been fascinated by learning.
I love the attitude. I love it. It's great. I honestly also appreciate that you respond directly when I asked you if you want to be on the show. I think that's the way to go, and it's really nice to be responsive. Brett, I learned a lot today. You gave us a very nice overview about New York City right now. You gave us a very great overview also about your services which you're offering. You gave us also a quick roundup on selling versus non-selling, or selling versus buying, and also we touched upon your videos and did a quick detour towards Alzheimer, which is definitely important as well. Brett, thank you so much for being on the show. I wish you a really nice day, and we talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. Look forward to chatting with you more in the near future.
Perfect.
See you on Clubhouse.
Have a nice day. Thank you so much, Brett.
Take care, Michael.
Bye-bye.